Hi, everybody. It's Bill Whittle, and this is episode 0 of our new podcast called Moving Back to America. And when we say moving back to America, we're not talking about me. We're talking about moving everything back to America. Sweater, can I get my iPad out of my bag there? It's always nice when you have a production assistant you can call sweetheart. I decided to get this out early today. I was thinking maybe I'd wait till Monday, but to be honest with you, given what's been going on and the Supreme Court decision, I thought, no, better get something out there right now. And so this is, let's just consider this like an introduction or a forward to any kind of a story you might be hearing. So the first real episode is going to be Monday, but it's important we get out there today. So I'm just going to set up the comment section. I'm not going to be using that too often, I don't think, in the future, but I'd like to hear it today. So if you'll just give me 1 second, we will be a little better shape on Monday. I woke up this morning and the topic came to me immediately, the name of the show, Moving Back to America. One last time, and then I'm going to forgo this. It just came with me when I woke up, because what I mean to accomplish by that is pretty simple, really. Everything that has happened to this country has been a move away from all of the traditional values, and move away from the respect for the rule of law, constitutional authority, all of it. And we've allowed it to happen. And so what we have to start doing as a country, those of us that still believe in this country, is we got to get back to America. We got to get back to what America means. And we have neglected America for far too long. So there you go. Last chance on this here. There it is. Okay, so we're in business. So what does that mean? And what does all this mean? Let's start with the basics. Yesterday, we found out that the Supreme Court case that Texas brought was dismissed for lack of standing. So the state of Texas and the other 19 states or whatever joined in this lawsuit, apparently we don't have standing with the Supreme Court of the United States of America. So that's yet another institution that we have lost our faith in, and we'll attempt to get all of that back. Now, I've had a plan, or an outline of a plan, in place for quite a long time now, because I didn't foresee this election fraud coming. I saw some election fraud coming, but I didn't foresee what occurred, let's put it that way. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. And while this episode is going to be a bit of a jumble in terms of all the things we're going to talk about, that's what the nature of an author's introduction is here's how we go about writing the book. We're going to have to do a number of things, but the overall thrust of this podcast, this ongoing series, and will continue until we can put a flag up there that's not tattered and torn, is this. The progressives have stolen the government. And this didn't just happen this November. It's been going on for a long time now. But they can't steal the country. And they can't steal the country because the country is not something tangible. They cannot take the country. They can take the office of the presidency. They can take the Supreme Court, if you want to make that case. They can take the office of Secretary of State of the state of Georgia. They can take all of these positions, all of these earthbound, solid kind of things that bear existence in the real world. But the beautiful thing about this idea of America is that it can't be touched. It can't be touched. It's an untouchable idea. America is the only country in the history of the world that was founded on an idea, and it remains that way. And the idea is still there, and the idea is still sound, and the idea is still loved and followed and essential to no less than 100 million Americans, and probably closer to like 150 or 200 million Americans at this moment. I'd like to point out in the course of this jumbled show, we're going to make an episode out of every one of these little steps. But as I say, this is sort of an introduction. I'd like to point out that the number of people that voted for Donald Trump exceeds the population of France and Germany combined. or certainly the people that voted for Trump and their families exceeds the population of France and Germany combined. So this isn't a fringe movement. This isn't a splinter movement. We're not a cult. We're not a sort of a weird sort of a secret society. And I've given some thought to this, and I can change my mind. But right now, I've decided I'm going to try as much as possible to abandon terms like liberal and conservative, and especially Republican and Democrat. What we've seen since this enormous theft began was that the term Republican doesn't really mean anything anymore. And while Donald Trump certainly represented a person whose entire campaign was "Make America Great Again," certainly was a man who was dedicated to the idea that this country deserves to come first in the hearts of its citizens, this is not about Donald Trump either. I like to think that Donald Trump is about the same thing that I'm talking about, but despite all of that, this is bigger than him. It's bigger than a political campaign. It's bigger than a political movement. It's bigger than a political party. This entire podcast, this entire series is going to be one part of a much larger social movement, but I hope it'll be an important part to preserve the idea of America and have a plan to restore it to its former glory. Now, that's the goal. And the steps between this goal and where we are now are enormous and are going to take years, if not decades, to achieve. So the reason I wanted to start with this first episode, which again is not terribly structured, episode 0, I wanted to call it Up From Despair, because if you're feeling despair about what you've seen, if you're feeling despair about the Supreme Court decision, about the election fraud, about the media suddenly discovering the Hunter Biden laptop story, and any one of the tens of thousands of other things, if you feel despair about learning that Bill Barr purposely held on to the Hunter Biden story and all the rest of it, if you feel like everything is gone, that's an appropriate feeling, and that's an entirely natural feeling, and you're right to feel despair, and you should feel despair. And I would never ever say to anybody, don't be despairing about this, because I was filled with despair myself. I often am, and I'm sure I will be in the future. Feeling despair for the loss of something this precious is the entirely appropriate reaction. But where we separate the men from the boys and where we separate the Americans from the rest of the crybabies in the world is that we are able to deal with despair and accept it and feel it and suffer it, and then get on with it. And we're not going to be doing any kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? I've forgotten the name of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. This isn't going to be, hey, everything's swell, or hey, we'll get them next time. Not going to be anything like that. We are in enormous, serious, terribly life-threatening danger for not just the republic, which is a government, but for the entire idea of individuality, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, the ability to do what you want to do without somebody else's permission. And this is why they can never defeat us, and this is why I wanted to call this first episode Up From Despair. The things that we believe in and the things that we hold dear and the things that we're fighting for are not of this world. They're untouchable. They're untouchable by the people that have put their claws on the structure that these ideas created. But the ideas are untouchable, and they're eternal, and they go back long before 1776. The idea of America has been with humans since there have been humans. This is just the first time it's ever been actually brought to fruition in one place. But the idea of freedom, the idea of living your own life, the idea of doing what you want to do so long as you don't harm others, has been with us forever. This is just the first time with this flag that it ever made an appearance on Earth. And I'm not willing to give this flag up. And I'm certainly not willing to wait another 50 years or 5 years or 100 years or 1,000 years or 10,000 years for these ideas to come back again. They're not going away. And they're not going away because we're not going to let them go away. We are not going to allow this flag to go. We're not going to allow these ideas to go. They can steal the government. They can't steal the flag. They can't steal the people that have sacrificed for the flag. They can't steal the love of the people that love this flag. They can't steal the belief in the rule of law. They can't steal the fundamental honesty and decency of the American people. And when I say the American people, these are the terms I'm going to be using. Not saying Republicans, conservatives, liberals anymore. No, I've given this serious thought. What do I want to call these two teams? What's an appropriate name? And realize it's extremely obvious. There are Americans and there are anti-Americans. Many Republicans are Americans and a few Republicans are not. Many Democrats are Americans and many Democrats are not. I'm past political parties. I'm past those kind of labels. I'm past all of it. When I say American, I'm not talking about a member of the Republican Party. I'm not even talking about a conservative. But I am saying that that term, as I use it from this point forward, applies to somebody who understands what this flag means and what these ideas are about. If you are about individual freedom, individual responsibility, freedom of speech, love of country, regardless of what problems you think may need to be fixed, then you belong here. And if you are opposed to those ideas, if you are a person who believes in collectivism, who believes in things like hate speech and political correctness and all the rest, then you can call yourself American, but you're not. And I'm not giving up the term. I'm not giving up the flag, and I'm not giving up the term. We're the Americans, and they're the anti-Americans. And it's just that simple. And that's how we're going to be talking about things from this point forward. Because I've seen anti-American sentiments from both Republicans and Democrats, and I've also seen, to somewhat lesser degree, let me rephrase that. There are millions and millions and millions of people who are Americans, love America, who are Democrats. In fact, there are millions and millions of people who love America who voted for Joe Biden. They had no idea about the Hunter Biden laptop story. They had no idea about any of this stuff. You can't blame people for not being aware of things when they have been fed a steady diet of nonstop propaganda. And those people that are out there that love America and who may have voted for Biden and think that the whole thing is just a giant overreaction, those people are salvageable. Those people are Americans. They love the country. They can be saved. We're not excluding anybody here. We need as many Americans on this team as we possibly can. So we are people who believe in the ideals of America, not the America that could be if we did this or we're socialist or no. We believe in the America as laid out in the United States Constitution. And we believe in the America that hundreds of thousands of millions of men and women now have died for. We believe in this, and this is what we're fighting for, and we're going to win. And the reason we're going to win is because this represents truth, and truth is a powerful ally. George Soros, billions of dollars, and to the left, big tech, billions of dollars, in terms of cash, not to mention their control over everything. Democratic Party, the progressives, and let's not forget probably trillions of dollars that China has clearly pumped into this entire destruction of this country. Let me rephrase that. It's going to be as much a lesson for me as it is for all of us. That China has pumped into the destruction of the government. Those are trillions of dollars. And you can say reasonably enough, well, how the hell are you going to fight that? You can't fight that, but you don't have to, because we're not dealing with issues that can be bought. We're not dealing with things that are purchasable with money. Truth is eternal, and truth is out there, and truth is on our side. And of that, I am 100% convinced, or else I wouldn't be here. And you believe it too. This flag represents truth. It has an imperfect history, like everything else here on Earth. But nevertheless, that's what its ideal is. And that's what we're fighting for. And that's what we cannot surrender. And that's what we won't surrender. We are not going to lose this country, folks. We've already lost the government, but we are not losing the country. Not as long as one of us is left. And if all of you decide to go home, I'll be here broadcasting into the darkness. But I know that's not going to happen. I know that's not going to happen. So a couple of things to think about as we move forward. We'll get a lot more organized. As I say, this is a bit makeshift. But moving forward, there are a number of things that we have to think about. And the first thing we have to think about, in my opinion, and I think this is clearly the first step that we have to take now, and it's a very simple one, but I think this needs to be our immediate priority from this point forward. And that is, we no longer are going to spend an erg of energy. We are not going to spend a single calorie of energy working against the anti-Americans. We are not going to engage them. We are not going to debate them. We're not going to argue with them. We're not going to despair. We're going to take all of our energy. We're going to concentrate it on ourselves. We're going to protect our belief in each other. We're going to teach our children what they need to be taught so that they can be functioning adults who appreciate the value of liberty, not having it drummed into them, but individual people who understand the entire concept and who make a choice for liberty, make a choice for this flag because it's the best choice available. We're going to protect our institutions. We're going to protect honest trade. We're going to protect honest transactions between honest people. And we are not going to let the filth and the lies and the crime of the people that have destroyed the government affect us or the country. We are going to be an America within the boundaries of the United States as it exists on the map. We are going to be a virtual America. Maybe we will be a physical America. That would be a lovely thing, and that's downstream too. But we are not going to waste another particle of energy trying to convince these people, and we're not going to waste any more energy lamenting the fact that big tech controls all of the information and all the rest of it. Those are the cards, folks. Here we are. It's December 12th, 2020, and we have cards that have been dealt to us, and this is the hand that we have to play. Be nice if we had a better hand, but we could have had a worse hand. So this is the hand, and we have to play it. And the great thing about playing a hand, and this applies to everything besides politics, is you don't end up with the cards you start out with. So here we are. We are at enormous disadvantages. We are at a serious crisis. We have allowed this to happen. And I think the first thing that we have to do, and I think probably episode 1 will be about who's responsible for this. Who's responsible for what we've seen, for the theft of the government of the United States? And the answer is very clear. And there's only one answer. And the answer is, I'm responsible for it. Bill Whittle, I am responsible. I am personally responsible for watching the destruction that has happened to this country. I did not do enough to stop it. It's my fault. And no one else's. It's my fault. No one else is responsible for this except for me. I did not do enough. I did not do enough. I took too much time off. I was too lazy. I was too proud to ask for money. I was all of these things. I did not do everything in my power, and I'm going to make my very best effort to atone for that. Now, when it comes to you, you may have whatever thoughts you want about that. But for me, if we don't understand who's responsible for this, we have no chance to recover it and make it better than it was. And let me just throw this in right now. We will make it better than it was. We'll make it better than it's ever been. If you have ever seen anybody restore a car, if you've ever seen a rusted out Model T in a junkyard, just a nothing but a rotting away hunk of orange corroded rust, and seen people put that on the back of a flatbed truck and take it to a small garage and then use their own money over the course of 10 years or 20 or 30 or whatever and get all of the rust off and restore the metal and clean out the engine and rebuild whatever parts need to be rebuilt. Redo the upholstery according to the original plans. If you've ever seen a first-class restoration of an automobile or an airplane, I have seen, as a small personal example, I have seen a P-51 Mustang that looked like it was made today. It is immaculate. It's better looking and better maintained and more functional than any airplane that came off the original factory line. So to think that this is gone and isn't coming back, you're right. What's gone is not coming back. What's coming back is something better than what's gone. And if you don't believe that, this probably is going to be too difficult to fight for you. If you think that this is all going to be about salvaging some kind of rump end or some kind of small section of what used to be there, then you're not going to have the stomach or the legs for this fight. If you don't believe that the America that is going to come out of this is better than the one that we've ever been given, then this is probably going to be too tough for you. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for most of you out there, because I think for many of you, you understand exactly what I'm saying. So we have to first protect the remnant. That's the first thing we have to do. And if the remnant were 5 people, and I was speaking to all of you in a room, then that would be the seed that we'd start from. And our work would be that much harder. Well, it's not 5 people, and it's not 500 people, it's not 5,000 people, it's not 5 million people, it's not 50 million people. It's at least 100 million people. It's probably closer to 200 million people who believe in this and are simply looking for a way to get not only back, but a way to get better. So a good way to think about what I'm saying when I say our first step is to protect ourselves, protect the remnant, is that we have to emotionally, can't intellectually, we've got to be in this fight as thinking people, but we have to emotionally divide what those people have done to America from ourselves. And we cannot allow that despair to own us. We cannot allow that cynicism to own us. We cannot allow any of that to own us. We can feel it, but we have to get in the habit of saying, okay, is the media lie? Yes. Did the media lying cost us the election? Yes. Did all of these things happen? Yes. That's the hand. But we have to start imagining things in a different way. So, for example, if you agree with this idea, and if you don't, that's fine too. All of us are smarter than any one of us. This is something the progressives never learn. The anti-Americans never learn. But there is, we have been carrying, Americans have been carrying the weight of this corruption for my entire life. Whenever hippies started rolling in the mud in Woodstock, and whenever, not that there's anything wrong with rolling in the mud, but when the celebration of lawlessness and the celebration of carnality and all the rest of it, when this starts to happen, those of us who have souls and those of us who have character and integrity and courage, honesty, honor, all of those things, watching it and understanding that these are our countrymen is a burden, and that burden's gotten heavier and heavier and heavier. And when we find out that the movie stars that we've always liked and admired, or the movies that we or the movie franchises, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever the case may be, all the things we love, James Bond, and we find out that the people involved with these are either pedophiles or they're virtue signaling idiots or whatever the case may be. It's a burden. It's a weight. It's a weight. It's a weight living under a country knowing that voter fraud was something that we thought we were just going to have to outvote the voter fraud. Well, that's what you get when you ignore something and walk away from it. And the same thing with the pop culture. When you ignore the pop culture, thank you, darling. When you ignore the pop culture and walk away from it, then the pop culture belongs to everybody else. So we have to maintain, first and foremost, we have to maintain our own identity, and we have to maintain the fact that there are a minimum of 100 million honest, patriotic, thoughtful, proud, brave, intelligent, and brilliant people that love this country and love this flag. And that's what we're starting with. It's not a bad hand. Eventually, over the course of the months and years to follow, we're going to have to figure out how to protect that, how to grow it, how to isolate it from the forces of corruption, and that's the only thing I can call them, that are out there. And we'll figure out ways to do that too, because all of us are smarter than any one of us. And so we'll be able to find a way to solve all of these. All of these things are engineering problems. But if you had to ask me how it was going to go, I would say it's going to have to go something like this. First of all, we have to protect ourselves. And by protect ourselves, I mean protect each other's belief in what we believe in. Because the entire weapon of the left, they didn't come at us with machine guns, you may have noticed. They didn't come at us shooting. They come at us using our own decency against us and using peer pressure and social proof and making us bow our head and saying, hey, you don't support that idiot Bush, do you? Or you're not a Nazi like the Trump guy. Oh, no, not me. No, I think Biden's a great guy. I see that all the time in the entertainment industry out here. We are going to have to protect ourselves and our belief in this country and our belief in everything. We're going to have to maintain that belief in the fundamental goodness of what America is, and and this is really important, and the fundamental achievability of it. That this is not some kind of dream. This is not some kind of an idea that may take place someday. This is something that has happened on the earth and worked well for 200 plus years. So we're not imagining this. We're not crazy. We're not dinosaurs, and we're not the past, as these people would have us think. And one of the things that we're going to have to deal with very early is the fact that cheating provides an enormous short-term advantage, an unbelievable short-term advantage. But in the long run, cheating is a losing strategy. And we need to keep that in mind, because we're going to be dealing with the entire consequences of cheating for years and years and years to come. It's not just cheating at elections either. It's people walking away without having to obey the law. It's all these things. Cheating in general, just the idea that, well, this is good for me, so I'll do it right now. Okay. It gives you tremendous advantages, incredible advantages, not having to play by the rules. But the people who do play by the rules are the people who build webs of trust and webs of honor and commitment and duty and sacrifice. And these are unknown to the anti-Americans. These concepts are unknown to them. They hear the terms, but they have no idea what they mean. When you talk about somebody who is inherently deceitful, and you tell them, I would rather honestly lose than win by cheating, they look at you and they have no comprehension of what you mean. They don't have the cells for it. They can't get their head around it. So they've got an advantage. They're starting out with a head start. That's fine. We're not going to let this get us down, because truth is the most powerful ally, and having God on your side doesn't hurt either. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about how we can make our own economy. We're going to talk about how we can do business with each other on an honorable basis and make sure that prosperity continues to flow among America and Americans, while depriving the anti-Americans of the fruits of our hard work. This is going to be a very large, long, and difficult problem to solve, but fortunately, I don't have to solve it. I don't have to solve any of it. I can just be part of presenting the problem, and you will solve it. But we're going to have to figure out how to make sure that our efforts do not go to the anti-Americans, that all of our efforts, the rewards, the fruits of our efforts, the work that we do, the money we make, stays within the ranks of Americans, and keep as much of it as possible out of the ranks of the anti-Americans. We're going to have to solve some serious problems, and the most serious problem I see right now is the problem of a very simple problem. Oracle is moving from Silicon Valley to Texas, to Austin. And they're doing that because Texas is a better economy, because it's run by Americans. And the other reason they're doing that is because it is in Oracle's interest to turn Texas into an anti-American state, and that is what they're trying to do. I don't know how to solve that problem yet. So far, the only way to solve the problem of preventing people from running away from the consequences of their bad decisions eludes me. But I can tell you this, I think that we can all agree on this. If the people that had ruined California were forced to live in California and stay in California and deal with the consequences of the ruinous policies that they voted for, then those policies would go away. The reason that California continues to descend into madness is because people can leave California, ruin California, leave it, move to Texas, ruin Texas. That's what they do. And until we can stop that osmosis, until we can stop that contagion, that I'm going to call the California virus, of voting a place into ruin because of your own personal psychoses, neuroses, or emotional needs, and then moving to some place that's not ruined and doing the same thing there, this is our single great problem that we're going to have to solve together. If Texas were to withdraw from the Union, then we would have at least a mechanism for doing this. You would have to immigrate to Texas. You would have to apply for citizenship, and there would be a border, and you would need a passport, and then you could control this kind of thing. But I will say this, if we are going to be talking about an America that is greater than the one that came before, we're going to have to learn some of the lessons that the founders did not foresee. They foresaw everything. If the Constitution were followed to the letter, we'd all be living happy and prosperous lives right now. What they didn't foresee, or maybe they did, but what they didn't protect, probably because they didn't think there was any reason to, they did not foresee the thought that Americans would no longer obey the law as it was laid out in the Constitution. The idea that we would allow people to twist the Constitution and to subvert it and to invert it and get away with it is foreign to them, because they're better people than we are so far. When we're done with this, we'll be able to stand with our forefathers and hold our heads high. But right now, we have a lot to be ashamed of, and one of them is the idea that we have allowed this to happen. So I think that moving forward, we need to look at the idea of something like socialism the same way that we would look at Ebola. It's something that needs to be studied scientifically. It's something that can be discussed, because anything can be discussed in America. It can be argued for and so on. But I would make a strong case that any form of political collectivism should be against the law, because it is so infectious, and dangerous. I could be talked out of that position, by the way. The best antidote for bad ideas is good ideas. But when the anti-Americans control the idea factories and the emotion factories, when they control schools, universities, movies, television, all of their values are placed in our heads, whether we like it or not. All of these things are enormous hurdles. And one of the things that we're going to be dealing with the most on this show, especially in the first few years, is getting over, is recognizing when we are being manipulated by social proof, recognizing how, when, and why our emotions are being manipulated by experts in psychology. And they're experts in the psychology of manipulation because the idea of manipulating people doesn't sicken them the way that it sickens you and me. They like the idea. And so we're dealing with masters of psychology who have had a lot of practice and now have a lot of data. And we need to understand the power that is granting them. That power rapidly diminishes once we understand it's there. The mere acceptance of it, the mere seeing it, just being able to see it, is 90% of the battle. Which is why the parable for our age is the emperor's new clothes. Everybody is telling everybody else that they see something that they don't see because they don't want to be considered stupid or racist or whatever. And that desire to be accepted has allowed all of us to back down from principles that we should have been fighting for a long time ago. And I am chief among these people because I'm the one who's responsible for this mess, me. But once we understand the power of the messaging that they're using against us, once we understand the power of the social proof of the peer pressure, once we understand, and this is it in a nutshell, once we understand what the progressives understood 60 years ago, we'll be free from their power and we can begin to rebuild. We have to understand that the anti-Americans use our decency against us. They use our morality as their weapon. They use our honesty as their lever. They use all of the qualities that make Americans American as weapons against us. And we've allowed it mostly because we've been too good to see just how easy it is to manipulate good people. One of the first things I ever said when I started doing this in public speaking was the reason that people shut up when they're called racists is because they're not racist. And the idea of being considered a racist is repugnant to them. And the idea that other people thinking that you're a racist is repugnant to you. And so if somebody calls you a racist for saying something, you shut up. And that's how it works. And that's how everything works. So we're going to have to learn how to recognize the techniques that are being used against us. And that is going to be a big problem. Social media, which is entirely new to the human race, is simply enlarging the pressures that come with living in a small village. Prior to social media, you could think whatever you wanted to in America. It's a big country, and we're founded on these ideas of the frontier. And when you're out there in the middle of the plains and the nearest neighbor's 20 miles away, you can think whatever you want to, say whatever you want to, and so can they. But if you live very close in a small village and somebody gets a reputation for being a liar or adulteress or a witch, whatever the case may be, then the pressure of the village, the pressure of peers on that person have an effect. And what social media has done is it's allowed the left to turn the entire country into a village square where any one of us can be held up for ridicule and put in the stocks. Put in the stocks, have people throw rotten tomatoes at you. Nobody wants that, and so we do what they say. And the reason we do what they say is because we don't want to be thought of as bad people. And we're not bad people. And so when I say the first thing we have to do is protect ourselves, we have to provide the kind of support for each other that will immunize us against whatever these people say. And this is something we should have been doing a long time ago. But sometimes you really do have to get punched in the face or have a bucket of water thrown on you in order to wake up. And I don't think there's many Americans left in America now who haven't at least woken up to the trouble we're in. And I'm going to say something else that I've not been saying much in the past, but I've said a little bit recently, and I'm going to say every day from now on. You cannot ride this one for free. Not anymore. You cannot ride for free anymore. If you're going to be a part of this, if your country matters to you, you are going to have to part with something you care about. You're going to have to either part with money or time or effort or something, but it's going to have to cost you something because it hasn't cost us anything so far, and it's going to cost you now. I can do as much as I can do given the resources I have. I am going up against $34 billion from George Soros, and I'm going up against big tech, and I'm going up against China. This show is going up against all of them. We're going to beat them too, but we're not going to beat them by having people sit back and simply watch. So you're either in this fight or you're not. And if you want to sit back and watch other people fight it, then you are going to make it that much longer and that much more difficult for America to prevail over the enemies of America. And you need to think seriously about whether you want to be that person. I'm sorry to be so blunt about it. It's not my nature. My nature is to be polite, and my nature is to be civilized and respectful and humble and not be asking people for money. But this is what got us into this kind of trouble. We need resources. We need resources. We need money. We need effort. We need all of these things. And if you're not willing to give those things, you don't have to give them to me. I've said this before. But if you're not willing to start parting with things that you have not parted with prior to this, then you're not helping any. And I'm genuinely sorry to be the person to have to smack you in the face about that. But if this is not late enough of an hour for you, then I suspect there's never going to be late enough of an hour for you. I'm not going to sit still and watch this country be stolen by criminals and liars and aristocrats and pedophiles, perverts, murderers, and corrupt politicians. I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to do everything in my power to fight it. And that means asking for the resources on a daily basis to allow me to make this message as widespread as possible, and then you will have to make your own decision. One more thing, I think 45 minutes is a really good length of time for these shows. I think that feels just about right. That gives us another 5 minutes or so. In order for this show to continue to grow, not only need resources, which I'm going to be depending on you on, we're going to need something that is going to be dependent on me alone, and this is going to be exceedingly difficult for me. I have never had a problem with being able to explain things. This has always been my special ability, to take complex things and make them simple and make them a way that people can understand them intellectually and provide some emotional motive behind it as well. This is what I'm good at. I'll tell you what I'm not good at. The chaotic nature of how I work, the mess of my desk, the chaotic nature of having to process so much information and make connections. This is how my brain is built. And this allows me to do the work I do. But that chaos and that lack of order and structure is going to be my personal worst enemy in this fight, because what this is going to require is it's going to require reliable, steady, on-time delivery of product. You cannot build an audience by appearing every other day or missing shows or whatever. It's got to be ordered, regular. It's got to happen on the same time every day. And this is going to be an enormous challenge for me. For those of you who've known me a long time, you know, and I've enjoyed the term because it's been a kind way for you to forgive me for my tremendous character flaw in this regard. But many people have talked about build time. Build time is somewhat faster than geological time, but it's certainly slower than real time. And I don't have that luxury anymore. This is not something I'm going to be able to do. This show is going to come on every day. I'm not sure exactly when. I think I might get some feedback on that. My inclination is to say 8 o'clock a.m. every day Pacific time. That's going to require me doing things that are difficult for me. But my deal with you is I will agree to do things that are difficult for me because of the way I'm built, because it has to be done in order to save this idea. And if I am able to do that, then I'm going to ask you to make similar adjustments to your comfort zone as well. It seems like a fair deal to me. I will close this opening episode by saying one last thing, and I think this needs to be said constantly. This is not about Donald Trump, and it is most certainly not about me. There is nothing about me that's unique or special. I know many people say, oh, you're being false modesty. It's not. I have the ability to put into words concepts that can sometimes be difficult or ethereal. But these are not my ideas. This is not my philosophy. It's nothing I came up with. I didn't write the Constitution. I didn't fight and die for the flag. I am not a painter, and this is not my philosophy. At very best, I'm a photographer. I'm taking a photograph of what we all know is out there and trying to put it in such a way as to make it easier for people to accept. But it is not me. This show is not about me. It never has been, and it never will be. This is about something much bigger than me. And when I have gone on public speaking events, and occasionally when I'm at my best, I know that I have no idea what the hell I said until I get home afterwards and my wife shows me what she took on the video in the iPhone. Because it's not me speaking. You can ascribe whatever motive to that you want to. I like to think it's the voice of a higher power. I'd like to think it's that God is using me for his designs. It's an arrogant thing to think, but it would be nice to think that. Maybe it's the ability to detach my conscious mind, let my subconscious mind flow if you're a secular person. I don't know what it is, but I do know that when I am at my best, I am not the person speaking. And so when I talk about needing help and resources and money and all the rest of that, I have to get myself out of this. And I've not been able to do that until now. It's always had this sense of pride, like I can't ask for help. That's not what civilized people, it's not what polite people do. And that's me getting in the way of the message. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to try my best not to do that anymore. It's not about me and it's not for me. It's for something bigger. So we're going to post the link to this on Facebook. We're going to be going to alternative platforms. We're going to be making the move. One of the things we're going to be talking about in the near future is how we can get blockchain to give Americans a secure means of communications that is immune to the control and the manipulation of the anti-Americans. All of these things are problems that we will solve together. They're engineering problems. But there's only one physics problem here. And the physics problem is this. You have to believe in this flag. You have to believe that there is nothing that can touch these ideals, nothing. And if you don't believe that, you're probably not going to survive the fight because it's going to get nasty and ugly, and despair is going to be our daily companion for a long, long time. But we have one thing that they don't have, and that is we have hope. We have genuine hope and faith. And these ideas, hope, faith, all of the virtues, charity, honor, honesty, courage, are unknown to the anti-Americans. They're unknown to them. They cannot hear that tune. They cannot hear that music. That is why they are what they are. They cannot hear it. And we can. That is a powerful weapon and a powerful shield as well. We will be back Monday morning, I'm thinking at 8 o'clock Pacific time for episode 1. And moving back to America is not something that we do individually, certainly not something I'm going to be doing or talking about doing anyway as moving from California back to America. Moving back to America means all of us have to move back to the ideals that made this country what it is and not accept any possible degradation of them the way we have accepted these things in the future. The slippery slope is a slippery slope. We obey the law or we don't. There's no gray area there. we have to commit ourselves to that. We're humans. We make mistakes. We try to repent for them. We try to atone for them. And we try not to do them again. Nobody's perfect, but the ideals are. And that is the thing that we are going to take with us when we take this flag and these ideas with us. And when we're finished, and all of this disease and gangrene and corruption and pus and infection and stink and filth is washed away, we will be left with something that is more beautiful and cleaner and freer and more powerful and more wonderful than it ever was before. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be sitting here. We'll see you Monday morning. Right now I'm here by myself, so I'm going to have to step out of frame to turn off the recorder. Hopefully we'll be able to fix that in the future, but that's not the issue. The issue is what we're talking about and what we're thinking about. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments and your support. And no more despair. Well, let me rephrase that. Despair all you want to. Just get up the next day. That's the main thing. We'll see you Monday.